Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I have some stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit, your favorite. Before we start today, make sure to check out the Karma Stories Patreon over at patreon.com/Karma Stories, where you can become a member of the Karma crew and get access to extra stories and ones that are just a little too much to be posted on YouTube or on the podcast. I'm posting up a new story there later on today. You're not going to want to miss this one. Check it out for yourself at patreon.com/Karma Stories. Links in the description on both YouTube and on Spotify. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Pumpkin Pav. Coworker demands I go to the bank in her place. So I have this coworker, A, who's honestly kind of awful. She's rude and lazy, and people have not only quit because of her, but quite a few customers have stopped coming in the morning because of her. She also acts like she's manager when she's definitely not. Anyway, one of her jobs is to take the deposit to the bank every day that the owner of the liquor store is unavailable. And now I need to back up a bit. So as embarrassing as it is, I just got licensed like 3 months ago. So obviously even now I'm still a new driver. Well, like a week after I got my license, she throws the deposit bag down in front of me and starts going off on me about how she's sick and tired of going to the bank and I need to do it. We got into a little argument about it because, again, only had my license for a week and there was a lot of construction in the area. Basically, I just wanted a day I could ask someone to go with me so I didn't freak out too bad about the construction. She was pissed. But I did exactly that, and from then on, I started taking the deposit to the bank. I mean, why wouldn't I? It got me out of regular work for half an hour. It was great. Here's where the compliance becomes malicious. I think she forgot how nice it was to step away from customers and stalking for a little while, because she eventually started telling me, "Oh, I'll go to the bank today. You don't have to." Every time, I would just respond about how not big of a deal it was. Nothing to throw a hissy fit about, certainly. It got to the point she complained to our manager about it. Our manager, who knew about the fact that I had just gotten my license and how A had instantly gotten onto me about the bank, just told her, "You asked her to do it. She likes doing it. I don't see the problem here." Anyway, she hates me, but that's nothing new. She hates everyone we work with outside of our owner. I know this is all very petty, but I have to keep my mouth shut about her most of the time. So a little malicious compliance went a long way for me. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Sadlow733. It says, "Small victories like this make a bad situation more bearable. I hope you can find more ways to innocently annoy her." Opie responded and said, "Definitely, though I'm pretty sure I annoy her just by existing in her general vicinity." Another commenter down below called Nausus said, "Do not ever go to the bank when someone else is in charge of the bag. Never have anything to do with it. If it is short, the fingers will point to you." There's a couple more things to think of in this situation. If they want you to be driving to the bank to do the deposit, they need to cover mileage. But you also need to make sure that you're insured properly in case something happens while you're driving your car for business purposes. Now, OP did say in another comment that the owner allows A to get away with stuff because that's just how she is. Ugh. That's a horrible owner. This story comes to us from Jules083. The time my grandfather-in-law shut down a steel mill and got overtime rules changed. Story takes place in the 60s. Grandfather-in-law was a World War II vet, was a prisoner of war in Italy, got out of the prisoner of war camp and rejoined his unit, then continued the war. So a verified badass. Worked the railroad at a steel mill, just locally moving cars and setting up the train, moving stuff from one plant to the other, that kind of thing. The mill was on either side of a river with a rail bridge connecting them, and the main rails ran right through both sections of the mill. So when he came through with a lot of cars, it would temporarily close the roads in the mill. He would get a little overtime quite often just by the nature of the job, couple hours or so per week. When it's shift change time, but you're driving a train, you need to finish up before you can run the engine back to let your relief take over. So, of course, the mill decided to make a no overtime, no exceptions rule. It took him a couple weeks to get it timed just right. At 3 p.m., his shift was over. He parked the engine right by the time clock, clocked out, and went home. He said there was almost 2 miles of cars hooked to the engine. went through the section of mill he was at, across the river, and into the other section of the mill. All the track was owned by the mill, so it didn't affect the actual railroad, just the mill. The mill bosses wanted to punish him. I forget the details, but the union shut that right down. Nothing happened, and the rules changed the next day. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called MasterLocksmith628. It says, USW guy here, your guy is a champ. OP responded and said, my whole family and my wife's whole family were either steelworkers union or railroad union. I'm a union pipe fitter now. Another commenter down below called Furry said, sounds like what they meant was, we don't want to pay you for overtime, so work for free until the job is done once your shift is over. Yep, that's exactly what these people meant, and then Grandpa turned around and said, F you, pay me. I guess what you could say here was that Grandpa, covered by the union, wasn't willing to be railroaded. This story comes to us from Pandora Winters. Can't be 2 minutes late. Longtime lurker and first-time poster on this subreddit. Sorry for any mistakes, English isn't my native language. So I used to work for this terrible manager in a pharmacy. Let's call him Edwin. He was the kind of guy who wanted us to greet every client in an insanely busy store. He was the type that wanted to introduce a color wheel for when I made creams and such, and he was an overall terrible person. Edwin was the type that didn't let me go to a funeral of a friend of mine who died at 23, and the next day, he could leave because he had to walk his dog. After a few years, I was done with all that crap. The last figurative drop, him giving me this lecture in front of our patients when I was late because a bus broke down and I couldn't get in. He told me work hours are from 9 to 12 and from 1 to 6:30. Got it, mate. I stopped going to the lessons we got from people during my break and got on at exactly 9 to clock in. When he commented that I usually was early, I told him, you said my hours are between 9 and 6:30, no exceptions. Gave him a confused look. So whenever I was helping a patient, I would drop everything and stop at that exact hour. He fired me. I went to the union and was paid for 2 more years by this pharmacy. Later I learned that during COVID, he made his people work with that virus. So what did I do? I called my country's FDA and told them all about it. That pharmacy is still shut down. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called DryAlps20. It says, I did this once. I was in the middle of helping a customer when the clock hit 5. I immediately turned and walked away from the customer, who was shocked at my behavior, and said, quitting time, see you tomorrow, boss. OP responded and said, it feels so good. I did warn the client and explained why I was doing this. It was so good. It's funny how they suddenly don't care anymore that you're a little late when you do exactly as you're told. I just want to clarify on this one that when OP said they had to do lessons on their breaks, that was actually training that is mandated by law. The boss would have them do it on their breaks while they weren't being paid, which is absolute BS because if you're training, you're still working, so you should be on the clock. OP knows that now and said they won't let anybody take advantage of them again in the future. You really don't owe anybody hours if you're not being paid for your time. This story comes to us from Joey Jojo Sr. Manager insisted we do timesheets after hours. At our work, timesheets have to be filled in every fortnight on a Friday by close of business to be processed first thing Monday morning. Our manager was a really chill woman who would sign off on timesheets Friday morning and then send them to payroll before 5 p.m. She went on leave because her daughter was having a baby, and we got some young dude to temporarily fill in as manager. This guy was a total D-bag. One of the things he did was insist we complete timesheets only after we'd worked our fortnightly hours. This meant we had to work until 5, then get our timesheets signed, and then get them to payroll. Except payroll closes at 5, which meant we couldn't get our timesheets to payroll until Monday morning, and they'd be processed late. So we decided we'd take our time filling in timesheets. A lot of us hang around chatting on a Friday because there's a bar across the road that does cheap drinks from 6 to 7 p.m. So we'd leisurely do our timesheets and D-bag manager would have to hang around to sign them all. One week, we didn't give them to him until right before 6 p.m. He was pissed. This lasted about 6 weeks. I guess something got flagged somewhere that our whole department wasn't getting paid on time. D-bag manager was quickly identified as the culprit and given the boot. They ended up getting one of my coworkers to take over until our real manager came back. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Paul Denap. It says, surely you added the hour of overtime you spent to fill out the timesheet to your timesheet. OP responded and said, oh yes, and he had to approve the overtime as well. Another commenter down below called Real Ultimate Papo said, D-bag did not think this through at all. What did he have to gain by staying back himself? OP responded and said, I guess he thought we'd flake out on our hours if we submitted the timesheets before the fortnight was officially completed. Guy was too proud to admit he was wrong. It seems to me there's more going wrong in this company than just the D-bag person they had come in to replace the manager temporarily, because in places that I've worked at, if you got your timesheets in late, which resulted in HR paying you later than normal, you would get bitched at right away by somebody in HR or somebody in the payroll department, depending on how big the company was. It definitely wouldn't have dragged out for as long as it did in OP's story, but you know, different companies, different things, I get it. Also, what's with rocking the boat when taking over for another manager? This was D-bag's chance to show that they could actually do it and prove to the people higher up that they can manage in a place that they're not used to being in. Obviously, D-bag failed, but that's kind of what we expect. This story comes to us from Conchetta Babe. I made my own schedule. I work the night shift as a cashier at a 24/7 convenience store. My shift is from 10 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. Usually, my coworker and I switch tasks, like she's at the counter while I help the customers. Lately, I've been dealing with constant headaches, so I asked our manager if I could take a night off. But instead of approving it, she snapped. If you don't like this schedule, make your own. So I did. I skipped 2 nights, then worked only 4 hours on the 3rd night, and took another night off after that. When I finally came back, she scolded me saying, "That's not what I meant." I told her, "Well, you said to make my own schedule, so I did." Now the whole staff, whether day shift or night shift, is asking if they can customize their schedules too. Funny how she suddenly cares about clear communication. Shout out to our manager of the year, ma'am knows it all. P.S. I did put my phone to do not disturb so that I won't get notified with her calls and texts. Also, our manager only goes to the store every Monday. I asked her Monday night. My working days are Monday to Saturday. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called N4s. It says, I don't know what you meant. I only know what you said. If you want to improve communication, from now on, I suggest you say what you mean and mean what you say. I couldn't help but think in this one that OP making their schedule where they were barely there, working minimal hours, actually just screwed over their coworkers, so it was kind of like a mean thing to do. But I guess that's not really OP's concern because they're not the ones who are supposed to be making everybody else's schedule, right? And the manager should be filling in whenever there's a gap that needs to be filled, right? Yeah, of course, it always works that way. This story comes to us from Ancient Chocolate 809. No home equipment? No problem. So I work for an agency, and ever since I started 8 years ago, I've always had my own computer equipment like keyboards, mice, etc. And no one has questioned it, not even IT. I get moved to a new small shared office, bring in an extra monitor from home so that I have 3 monitors, and get to work. I receive a call after they investigate my office saying it's against policy to use home equipment, despite me having done so previously, and IT being aware of it. Immediately, I make a list of all the stuff I'm using that the company should then provide for me, like headphones, a docking station, and monitor for working at home. I unplug my monitors, remove my mouse pad, keyboard and mouse, plug back in the company's hardware, and slow down my work output drastically. I then take the monitor they gave me and plug it in to replace the monitors I had to take down, and look at them with a crap-eating grin when management came to check if I complied. Well, you get what you wish for, and now, since my work output has dropped, they're forced to rebalance the workload. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Overall Taylor 8949. It says, I'm going to guess a new manager got hired or promoted or transferred and feels the need to mark their territory, rather like when you take your dog for a walk in the neighborhood. Alright, I firmly believe that the company should be supplying to you everything you need to do your job efficiently. Whether that's more monitors, a better keyboard, a better mouse, an ergonomic chair, whatever, it should all be provided by the company. If you have to bring in your own things, it means the company's not supplying you properly, and that should be brought up in your one-on-one meetings, or just go into your boss's office and say, hey, I need this to do my work more efficiently. The worst thing they can do is say no, and then you just modify your work output accordingly. Alright, I think we're going to end this one here today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.